Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Date in a Blink, where we're hosting Jonathan and Elle for a Blink date. Modern dating sucks, but it doesn't have to. Here on the Date in a Blink podcast, you'll listen in on 10-minute voice-only speed dates between strangers. The experience is designed to move people beyond mindless swiping and marathon messaging. Our position on online dating? It's time to stop collecting pen pals and start, going on actual dates.
Online dating? That actually involves dating? Is that even a thing anymore? But for real, dating should be fun. We hope listening in inspires you all to try new ways of meeting people. Tune in every other week to hear a new couple go on a date. In between, we'll talk to relationship experts about how the date went and what we can learn from it.
Will our hand-picked podcast matches find love on these Blink dates? Or will they say goodbye to each other after 10 minutes and never look back? Tune in to find out.
Before we jump into today's Blink date, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain a bit. It's totally free, and Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and lots of other podcasting platforms. Not only that, but it has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also lets you make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make your podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. We are here on Date in a Blink today with Jonathan and Elle. I'm going to let you two dive in, but in case it's helpful to get the conversation started, I'm going to leave you with this question. What's your most controversial food opinion?
That is a very good question. I'm still thinking of my answer, but if you don't have one in 10 seconds, I can go first.
Yeah, let me think. I mean, I'm generally a picky eater, so I think I have a lot of controversial food opinions.
Okay.
But I think the one I would say is like pineapple on pizza. I don't get it. I never will. I don't know. It's like, why do you have like fruit on, I don't know, cooked food? The whole thing is a little strange to me.
Got it. Okay. And then would you say in general, do you prefer to keep your sweets and your savories separate?
I think you could say that, yes. I like to, I used to joke that this is going to sound bad, but I'm like a food separatist. I like, I like the fruits on one side, the carbs on one side, the protein on one side. I don't like to like mix a lot of random things together. It just, it's like when you eat tacos and they're like sour cream. I'm like, why is sour cream on my taco? I just want regular tortillas and the protein. Like, thank you very much. Yeah.
Speaking of food separatist, this isn't quite the most controversial one, but it kind of relates to something I personally do. I'm like a literal food separatist when I eat. So let's take a bowl of pho, for example. So you've got your noodles, you've got your meats, you've got your veggies, and most people, when they eat noodle soups, you'll like get a little bit of soup with the noodles, with some meat and vegetables. But for me, I actually eat all of my vegetables first, and then I eat all of my meat, and then I eat the noodles, and then I drink the soup. So it's a little weird for when people like eat with me. They're like, "Oh, like how come your bowl still looks so full?" And then I have to explain that that's how you eat. Similar with like potlucks. I don't know if you've been to a potlucks, obviously, since the pandemic started, because we're all we all have different levels of comfort with meeting people now. But back when potlucks were a little bit more popular, you get all your different dishes. Most people, again, sample a little bit of each. But no, I like eat, again, all the vegetables, all the meat, and then I end with like the rice or the noodle dish.
Interesting. Are you doing it in like any particular order? Is it on the order of like least desired food group?
Yes, I think it stemmed from my childhood of wanting to get rid of the food I disliked first so that I could enjoy the rest of the meal. Whereas I think most people, growing up, would prefer to, eat the stuff they like so that I can power them through the stuff they dislike. I've always tried to take what I dislike about life, or I guess like the sucky parts of it, suck it up, power through, and then that way it's already dealt with. And that's kind of how I view life in general.
That's awesome. Like that means you're like very productive. You always hear people say that when it comes to like anything you do for work or your projects. It's like do the hard things first, and then just get them over with. That way you can focus on other stuff that maybe you're more interested in or puts you in like a state of flow or things like that. So seems like it's applicable in many aspects of your life.
Yeah, it's worked for me so far.
That's awesome.
um, I kind of switching topics a little bit. For me, uh, I'm someone who's very curious about things, so I'm gonna just ask you a random question and then see if you'd be willing to answer it. Uh,
Sure.
so, the question that I have for you would be, if you could see a number above people's heads, like you're just walking around and boop, a number appears above their head, what would that number represent?
Hmm. That's a good one. Ooh.
It's okay if you need some time to think about it. I can go first.
Yeah, I need
If
some
that,
time to think about it. Why don't you go first?
yeah, no problem. So for me, the number that I would want to appear above their head is kind of a measure of how happy they are with their life.
Hmm.
For me, I'm not sure how big you are into personality tests or personality like identifier things, but I recently took a test for the Enneagram, which is a personality kind of marker,
Hmm.
and I tested as the helper type of personality. So I really enjoy empathizing with people, kind of seeing what I can do to be a helper in their lives.
Hmm.
And as I was reading the description, I felt that it was very applicable to who I am as a person. And so I feel like if I could see a number above people's heads and figure out how well I can assist them to kind of lift their spirits, just because the world has not been the kindest as of late. I think that would be mutually beneficial for both the person I am helping and for me to know that I'm making a difference in the world, even if it's one person at a time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so good to hear that. Yeah, I've taken the Enneagram. I think I took it a long time ago. I need to retake it just to see if anything's changed. I don't even remember what I was before, but that's such a good like insight that you mentioned and the number of what you want to see. I think similar to you, I may want to see their number for that particular day or period because I know you said happiness. I do think happiness varies each day and
Mm,
each hour. And so if you
yeah,
saw them yesterday, it could be a high happiness number, but maybe the next hour they might not be as excited. So I think in that moment, I'd want to see what their number is and how they're feeling and their mood. That way I can sort of know how to adjust or um, adapt my behavior to them. I think I'm very adaptable in general, and so I always find that sometimes people are not in the best mood, and so I have to adjust how I approach them, or just not be not be insensitive there. So it'd be interesting to see like in the moment I'm interacting with that person, what is that number,
mm,
and how can I adjust my behavior to make sure that I'm also having a little bit of empathy towards them, as you mentioned.
yeah. I actually find it quite admirable that you are an adaptable person. I find that most people, at least in my own life experience, tend to become less adaptable as they grow up. You become
Hmm.
more set in your ways. You become more firm on your beliefs and values, and that I think it's good to have strong beliefs and values, but more of that. Most people begin to not think that they can be wrong, and I think
Yeah.
for me, I went to school for sociology, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we learn is that society and people in general are very malleable, and so I think that's kind of helped me to have a better perspective on understanding that, hey, like, doesn't matter if I'm living 30, 40 years, if I've lived through a lot of historical events.
Hmm.
I need to allow myself to know that I can always be proven wrong in something. And I think that's helped me in my sense to learn to be adaptable. But I don't know if I'm like at a level of being adaptable yet that I would necessarily uh, attribute it to myself.
No, that's awesome. That's a great insight. No, I agree. I think sometimes I could be a little too adaptable, so I'm actually working on, how to be not so accommodating and adaptable all the time. But I think for me in general, like I'm not, I'm one of those people where, I have my beliefs and I have my values and things that I wouldn't compromise on. But when it comes to like things that I don't think are that important, I'm just like, I don't, this is not the hill I want to die on. So if you as long as it doesn't compromise my values and morals, I'm happy to sort of hear a point of view, change my mind, or if you really want to go to a particular place and I don't really care for it, I'm like, yeah, it'd be a good experience. I'm happy to just go and check it out. Like, what's the harm in that? As long as it's not, obviously putting anybody in danger or harm. And so I tend to not, things that people, I guess, get upset over. I just tend to kind of see the bigger picture, and I'm just like, this is not the most important thing. So,
Mhm.
so that's fine with me, sort of thing. And it's not always the greatest thing, I think, even. But I'm trying to also find that balance between being adaptable and accommodating enough, but also, not doing it all the time and finding where's that line and that balance for myself as well.
Yeah, I think life is constantly a work of continuing to polish and fine tune what
Hmm.
makes us. Um, I know we've both talked about a little bit about, like understanding people as well as kind of understanding ourselves a little bit,
Hmm.
which makes me want to ask this other question. We've kind of touched a little bit on it, but I figured it'd be cool to just dive deeper into it a little more. Would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the smartest person in the room?
Ooh, that's hard. Um, I think a lot of funny people are smart. And so I would say like funny, but I do think funny. I have to add a caveat here. Funny with
Sure.
the ability to read the room, because I do think that not everything is funny. You don't have to come in cracking jokes all the time or trying to make light of a situation or find the humor and everything. So funny to lighten the mood when it's going to bring people's spirits up. But if something serious is going on or something um, is is happening, then I think just no need to be funny there. Just shut up and listen,
Mhm.
and just adapt it there. So I think people who are naturally funny are actually really smart. So I'd say funny because it also indicates that you're smart. But that's just my own bias. I could be wrong. What about you?
I would agree similarly to you. I would choose to be the funniest person in the room. And I think for me, it kind of splits between two types of funny. There's quantity funny, like you are
Mm,
consistently throwing out jokes or humor, and there's quality funny. There's the type of jokes or moments that you just strongly remember, and it like makes it into best man speeches or maid of honor speeches kind of
hmm.
At this point in the date, I jumped in to let them know that their date had ended and let them say their farewells. Jonathan and Elle's conversation explored so many things. They started with food and dove into happiness, empathy, and adaptability, and then pivoted to whether they'd prefer to be the funniest or smartest person in the room. Despite the brevity of the date, they shared some pretty introspective things about themselves. Do you think Jonathan and Elle will go on a date and explore some of these topics more? Join us next week, where we'll talk to an expert about the date and reveal what happened. That's all we've got for you today. Shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at @TheBlinkDate or at @DateInABlink to let us know what you think. If you want to try voice-first speed dating from the comfort of your home, download the Blink Date app today. You can also sign up to participate in Date in a Blink by visiting our website at www.theblinkdate.com. In the meantime, thanks for joining us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening and look forward to talking with you again next time.